Day, May 26th. And I read an article today that made me think about the issue of police brutality. A rallying cry for many groups around the country and has caused riots in many cities. But there's another side to law enforcement that doesn't get much publicity. And that's the area of release. Releasing perpetrators back into society before they have served their time for whatever reason. I read two articles this morning, both of them terrible stories when you look at it. About 4 years ago, a young man who had a criminal record by the time he was 15, criminal record as long as your arm. And what happened was he stole a car, and while the police detective was trying to stop him, he dragged this detective behind the car for 3 blocks, paralyzing the detective for life. And this story didn't get much news at all, right? And so he was sentenced to 16 months to 4 years in jail. 16 months for disabling a policeman and injuring him and causing his life to be put on hold for a long time, and the man will never walk again. And what happened is this young man who perpetrated this crime was released early. And what do you think he did? He stole another car, and they chased him down, and they finally caught him. So what was the purpose of releasing him early? He obviously didn't learn anything from his short stint in jail. And then a similar incident happened just recently, where another police officer made a stop, and he was dragged, but he was not severely injured as the first officer. So what I'm talking about here is the danger that police officers are in constantly. And I'm not excusing the actions of some of them who've done some terrible things. But I just want to point out to the members of society that policing is not a nice, easy job. It's a difficult job. They work hours in terrible situations. And the reported incidents of their lives does not get the attention that the so-called misdeeds that they perform do. And those misdeeds are terrible, but they are a small minority of what the police encounter every day. Every time that they go to enforce the law, they put their lives on the line. Now, there are many stories about police who have worked for 20 years or 30 years and never had to draw their gun. And that's great. That's a great thing. But I think when we have perpetrators out there who have long criminal records, they should not be released into society so quickly. They certainly should be released when they've served their time. But even those who have served their full time often repeat. And it's a terrible situation, and I don't know what the solution is, because we can't watch every criminal in this country constantly. And we have more people in our jails than in any other civilized country in the world. We have something like 2.5 million people in prison. And we worry about spending money on infrastructure and things like that. Maybe we should consider not putting so many people in jail. Or maybe we shouldn't be so good to the people that we put in jail. I don't know what the real answer is here. But I know that we are not paying enough attention to both sides of the story. We watch the police like hawks. And if they step out of line, people are ready to raise the roof. But if some young man who has a long criminal record, or possibly a young woman with a long criminal record, and they step out of line, nobody cares. And they're released early and they continue to do damage to society, And I don't hear anybody complaining about that situation. Yes, there are some people who have said we shouldn't be releasing these people. And those people who say that don't cause riots in the street. The people who want to keep these young people in jail or older people in jail. Nobody riots because they have said that. They just ignore it. And it's something that can't be ignored. When we have a criminal justice system that is obviously not really working very well, and we're trying to handcuff our police, and we want to defund police departments instead of giving them help and giving them our gratitude for doing the jobs they do. Because remember, if you get sick in a house and something happens, when you call up to get an ambulance, the police are the first people there. Nobody talks about that side of the business. Nobody talks about the great things that the cops do. So for every incident of brutality, I'll bet you there are 100 incidents of good. And why can't we recognize that? Why can't we cut them some slack sometimes? Now, it's a terrible thing if somebody dies in the hands of the police. There's no question about that. But I have a question about the view that we take on police. They're not all bad. Most of them are good. They're hardworking people. They're devoted to taking care of people. And I think we need to look more closely at the way we handle our criminals in this country. And certainly, first offenders should get some encouragement. But I don't think we watch them. You want to give some people encouragement, and you release them back into society. And then, I don't know, they're supposed to report to their parole officer or what it is. But obviously, we're not doing a good job at that. If every time you look around, some repeat offender who was released early has done some damage to society. So this story about this poor cop that got dragged 3 blocks behind a car and is paralyzed for life triggered these emotions this morning. And so I ask you to think about this situation and be reminded that there are always 2 sides to the coin. And so I will leave you with that this morning, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.